for children and a woman, according to the hospital. About 20 people were injured because the debris were flying in a nearby a small bakery shop where people were queuing to bake some of the bread that they have made at home. This is just about 1 hour after the tactical pause announced, and it's in the western side of Gaza City, in the heart of Gaza City, an area not classified, one of the places where Israel asked people to leave, not red area, according to the map published by the Israeli armed spokesman this morning. So it is significant because people were a little bit relaxed in the morning. They thought that the ceasefire will be holding. They were trying to go to the market to see if there is any food available, but they were surprised by the airstrike.
Rushdi Abu-Alouf reporting from Cairo. President Trump is continuing his visit to Scotland and is out on the golf course in Turnberry. Later, his focus will be on trade talks with the European Union. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is due to meet President Trump at Turnberry. He told reporters he believes there's a 50-50 chance of reaching a deal. Let's talk to my colleague Rajini Vaidyanathan, who's still there in Turnberry. So much more than golf on the agenda, Rajini.
Yeah, it's quite blustery. We did see President Trump out on the golf course in the distance behind me this morning. He managed to get some rounds of golf in on the golf resort that he, of course, has owned since 2014. Now, of course, it turns to business because he's expecting Ursula von der Leyen, as you were saying there, in a couple of hours from now, where the pair will hopefully thrash out an agreement for an EU-US trade deal. But as you say there on Friday, President Trump saying that there's a 50-50 chance of that coming through. He said on Friday on the tarmac as he disembarked from Air Force One when he arrived in Scotland that there were a number of sticking points still to get through when it came to negotiations with the European Union. He didn't elaborate on what they were. Well, we do know that the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is now here in Turnberry and Jameson Greer, another senior advisor to the President on trade, and also officials from the EU side are here, and those officials have already been having talks to try and clinch a deal. It's not necessarily plain sailing though, Karen. President Trump did hit out at Europe for a number of things, including climate change and issues around using renewable energy sources, and he also said that Europe needed to get a grip on immigration. Let's have a little listen to what he said on that on Friday.
And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe, many countries in Europe. Some people, some leaders have not let it happen. And they're not getting the proper credit they should. I could name them to you right now, but I'm not going to embarrass the other ones. But stop. This immigration is killing Europe.
So Ursula von der Leyen, as we were saying, they're expected here in the coming hours. Of course, if she didn't think there was a good chance of a deal, she wouldn't be here. So that does give us an indication of the direction of travel. Well, Karen, there is a clock running on this because it is, of course, the 1st of August that Donald Trump set as a deadline. The president saying that if countries could not negotiate with the US, then those higher rates of tariffs would kick in. So if the EU does not manage to broker a deal by Friday, then 30% tariffs on most goods would come in. But the expectation and hope is from the EU side is that they can negotiate something that would halve those. There'd still be higher tariffs, we understand, on things like steel and aluminium, because President Trump says he's not going to give the EU a special deal on that. But of course, who knows what will come out of these talks. But on Friday, President Trump said if a deal came through with the EU, it would be the biggest one of them all.
Rajini, thank you very much. Rajini Vaidyanathan there in Turnberry. Now it's time for a look at today's sport with Mark. Hi, Mark.
Afternoon. No doubt about it, there is a heavyweight encounter on the bill in Basel later in the final of Euro 2025. Spain are hoping to add the title to their World Cup and Nations League victories, while England are the holders, and they've now reached their 3rd straight major championship final. Sarina Wiegman's side lost to Spain 2 years ago in Australia, but she insists Sunday's rematch stands alone.
I'm not using that motivation. I think we know each other so well. We respect each other a lot. You can feel that respect from each other. We've played now in the World Cup, in the Euros, in the Nations League. So we know each other really well. What we're trying to do now is get the best possible game plan and get everyone fit and ready for Sunday so we can make the best decision and play at our best. And then hopefully that will bring us the win.
I think we're very connected to what it means to the nation, and in that sense, as connected as we can be being away from home. The opportunity and what's on offer is the best thing in football. We came to the tournament, we wanted to be here, we wanted to be in it till the end and have a chance to fight for that trophy, and you can't do that until you get into the final. So we don't necessarily carry the weight of it and how much it means to people, but we're aware of it because it means the same to us. So you have a squad of excited players, focused players, and like I say, we recognise the opportunity and we'll do everything we can to take it.
The two nations have had very different journeys to today's final. England have needed late goals and a dramatic penalty shootout to secure their place, while Spain have won every match. Indeed, until the semi-final extra-time win over Germany, they were barely troubled. But there's still a sense of expectation back home, even if their captain isn't watching too much of it.
They are telling us that Spain is moving a lot, watching us, and just to tell them thank you, because that's important for us. But I'm the one that I prefer to leave the phone and not check that much the media, because it doesn't help in the performance.
In the cricket, England have made some progress in their bid to win the fourth test against India and in turn the series. Ben Stokes was at his inspirational best earlier as he took the wicket of KL Rahul, dismissing him LBW for 90. Shubman Gill made 103 for his fourth century of the series, for he was caught off the bowling of Jofra Archer. India are currently 264 for 4. They trail England by 47 runs. England's Lottie Woad is still in contention at the Women's Scottish Open. She was still an amateur less than 2 weeks ago and could become only the second woman in 74 years to win their first LPGA tournament as a professional. Woad has just birdied the 13th hole to reopen a one-shot lead over South Korea's Kim Hyo-joo. Woad is 20 under par for the tournament. Tennis and the men's final at the Washington Open later. We'll see Alejandro Davidovich Fokina face Australia's Alex de Minaur. De Minaur beats Corentin Moutet in straight sets in his semi-final as he aims to win his 10th ATP title. Davidovich Fokina got past the world number 8 Ben Shelton. In terms of the women's competition, Anna Kalinskaya prevented a rematch of the 2021 US Open final by beating Emma Raducanu in straight sets. She'll now play Canada's Leylah Fernandez a little later. And the Belgian Grand Prix is underway with Lando Norris starting from pole. All that and the latest from the final stage of the Tour de France is over on the BBC Sport website. But for now, that's all your sport for the time being.
Well, thank you very much. Well, we are just 3 hours away from the Women's Euro 2025 final, less than that actually, as England prepares to take on Spain. Prince William has wished England's Lionesses good luck ahead of their showdown. The Prince, who'll be at the match in Switzerland in his role as patron of the Football Association, posted on social media saying, "The nation's proud. They're through to the final after some stunning comebacks." He added, "We are all cheering you on." Well, let's go to Emma Vardy, who's in Basel as the city prepares to host the final later. I can imagine there'll be a lot of cheering on going on where you are, Emma.
Well, you're coming to us at the right time. We've just joined the England fan walk. So, we've got a 10,000 fans making their way through the picturesque streets of Basel on their way to the stadium. And they're led by a London tag. And here they come. It's about 5K more. They're keeping up with the tag.
We can hear pretty much only cheering, Emma. We can't hear you, unfortunately, but wow, That is quite a groundswell of support there on the streets of Basel ahead of the match. And we will be back when we can get a better connection. Emma Vardy there in Basel. Let's get more on the build-up, though, and go to our reporter Emily Brown, nearer to home with England fans at Box Park in Wembley. Emily.
Well, it's getting busier and busier here at Box Park in Wembley. The area behind me is expected to fill up in the coming hours. Tickets for the screening here have sold out, which shows just how much support there is for the Lionesses. And I'm pleased to say 2 bands join me now, Carly and Maisie. Ladies, how are you feeling ahead of the game?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think a Lionesses win 2-1. I think if we can apply high pressure and be physical and put the Spanish off their game, because they're obviously very technical, I think we can nick the win.
Maisie, what do you?
I'm nervous. I mean, they're the best team in the world. They're World Cup winners, but I've got faith in England and I think we're going to do it tonight.
How do you think that England have performed throughout the tournament? Because it's been a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, it wasn't the easiest semi-final, was it?
No, it wasn't. I think, but then when you've got players like Lucy Bronze in your side, with her fight, her determination, and against Sweden, when you need someone to step up, she come in and she scored that header. And you know, sometimes tournament football, we need a bit of luck, and we've had that on our side.
It's been, very eventful from start to finish. But I also just think as well with Michelle Angerman coming off the bench as a sub, Chloe Kelly. I mean, Michelle was a ball girl before, back in the other Euros, and now she's scoring goals for her country. You can't ask any more than that.
And just very quickly, because we're running out of time, but what do you think that the Women's Euros have meant for young people and getting them into football? I know you teach young people yourself, don't you?
Yeah, as a sports coach myself and my company, Sports for Tots, so we promote young children to be fit and active. So I'm hoping that the Lionesses, even today reaching another final, I hope that inspires more young girls to participate in football.
Brilliant. Ladies, thank you so much. Well, we're expecting this area to fill up in the coming hours, and everyone is very excited ahead of England as they face Spain in the final.
Emily, thanks very much. Just over 2.5 hours to go till that all begins. There is a really good live page on the BBC News website. You can also provide your score prediction on that as you scroll down. That has all the very latest updates ahead of the match. I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm Karen Giannoni. This is BBC News. Our headlines. Aid distribution is ramping up in Gaza through Israeli and international airdrops, along with UN truck deliveries. Israel eased restrictions after facing intense international pressure over fears of mass starvation. President Trump is continuing his visit to Scotland. Trade talks with Europe are on the agenda later when Mr. Trump meets the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. England will take on Spain in the final of the Women's Euro 2025. Later, it's England's fourth appearance in the tournament final, while Spain are competing in the final for the first time. Firefighters in Turkey and Greece are using all available resources to battle a series of wildfires across the eastern Mediterranean. International teams are assisting with temperatures which are in the high 40s.
Now on BBC News, exploring the latest innovation and technology shaping our lives, and with the inside track on global trends and advancements in the tech space today. From AI and robotics to health, climate, transport and gaming. Tech Now.
We've been given rare behind-the-scenes access to find out how technology is playing a key role in completing this astonishing feat of architecture.
This is Signal Iduna Park, the largest stadium in Germany and home to Borussia Dortmund. It's also home to some really innovative tech and AI.
Oh, I've dropped it. If I don't break it, this lab in a box is destined for the International Space Station next month.
Antoni Gaudí wanted to invite people to look up, to be near God. He wanted to create a church of light.
Gaudí is one of the world's most renowned architects. His works are recognisable for their unique blend of architectural styles, deeply inspired by nature. In the 1880s, he took over designing a grand basilica in Barcelona, La Sagrada Familia. It would become his most famous project, not least because it's still under construction more than 140 years on from when work first began. We've been given rare behind-the-scenes access to find out how technology is playing a key role in completing this astonishing feat of architecture.
It's still a construction site up here at the moment, but you can get some of the most incredible views of Barcelona from up here.
Gaudí's predecessor had drawn up blueprints for a much more traditional-looking basilica, but when Gaudí took over, he tore up the rulebook. His design featured soaring towers, inclined columns that branch out like trees, and 300 skylights. He was a visionary who was ahead of his time.
He had built his Sagrada using the technique of his moment. He knew the project in the future could be built with new technologies.
Gaudí knew he wouldn't be able to complete such a monumental project in his lifetime. So he had to make sure future architects would be able to understand his designs once he was gone. And for that, he relied on the principles of geometry.
Gaudí was using what it's called ruled surfaces, which are made of straight lines. And just by changing the endpoints of those strings, changes the curvature of this surface.
The skylights are hyperbolics. It's a circle, the skylight, and a huge number of straight lines that surround the entrance of light. And this form diffuses perfectly the sound and the light.
And these these shapes can be seen all over the basilica.
Because they are made of straight lines, these rules can be followed easily.
These shapes, are they quite unique to La Sagrada Familia?
Being applied in that massive scale, it was the first time in history.
As well as drawings, Gaudí used three-dimensional plaster of Paris models to communicate his complex geometrical vision.
These are some pediments of this building. These pieces in here.
But many of his models were smashed up during the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s.
The generations after him had to reconstruct this 3D puzzle. We have more than 8,000 pieces being scanned. With this information in the computer, we can recreate the same geometry.
These 3D printers are constantly churning out different versions of models based on Gaudí's originals. They're used to experiment with the design before a single stone is placed as part of the construction.
We're looking at a full model of the central towers.
It's incredible that this is 3D printed. How long would that take?
Because it's a very big model. In this case, this will take some weeks.
The towers just look so tall and thin. How does a structure like that stay standing?
This is how Gaudí worked it out. He experimented with this hanging chain model over the course of many years. Each weight represents a column in the basilica. They've created perfect arches in the chains, which would be able to support themselves under their own weight if they were flipped upside down. But there were forces it couldn't take into account: wind and earthquakes. So today, structural engineers have been brought in to help make the basilica even more resilient.
We have built very complex models which represent the stiffness of the structure, and then we've applied different ground motions to these models to determine its performance under seismic events. We've also done similar things with wind loads, where we've applied wind loads to it and we see how they perform to make sure we've got the most optimal design.
But that wasn't the only challenge to overcome. The existing foundations were built to bear a much smaller version of the basilica. They wouldn't have been strong enough to support towers at the height Gaudí drew up in his final designs if they were made of traditionally thick, heavy walls. But thin walls wouldn't be able to support themselves on their own. So engineers at Arup came up with a new solution, inspired by one of these simple toys.
How these structures work is when you squeeze the bottom, they fall over because there is no tension in the cables. But when the cables are taut, they are stable. What we have come up with is post-tension stone panels. So these panels are made of solid stone and they have steel cables which run between them. And by tensioning them together, we're able to make a solid panel which is much, much thinner than it would be if it was built out of traditional stone.
Visitors flock from around the world to admire the basilica. But some local residents say ongoing construction has been disruptive. Today's architects and engineers are still working to continue Gaudí's great project. And thanks to advancements in technology, this generation could be the one to complete it.
Next year, we'll be able to build the cross on Jesus' tower.
And once that cross is placed, La Sagrada Familia will become the tallest church in the world.
Stretching over 40 kilometres, this port is by far Europe's largest. On the surface, more than 100,000 vessels call in here by river and sea every year. But we're here to talk about what's happening below ground, an ambitious project to lay a network of pipes to take CO2 out to disused gas fields in the North Sea. So engineers have been burrowing through the ground to lay more than 30 kilometres of this network and another 20 kilometres under the sea to the gas field.
It isn't an easy task, no. It's a big project in a port that is already congested in the ground with pipelines So it's quite difficult to find your space where you have to put your pipeline.
The idea is that instead of CO2 going into the atmosphere where it contributes to climate change, it's captured from industrial sites around the port and sent 3 kilometres down under the seabed to be stored. It is permanent, it will stay there forever?
It will stay there forever, at least that's the purpose at this moment. This part of CO2 is not destined to be reused in a later stage. I don't know what the effect will be if you have CO2 under the ground for a number of years. It could also be that it in some way connects, calcifies with the rocks around it.
Because is there a danger it leaks out, that there's a hole that you haven't blocked up, so to speak, or it can sneak through the rock?
The gas wells we're using have been used for a number of years and they've been producing gas, and before that the gas has been there for millions of years. So we're quite convinced that if you put gas there, it will stay there and it's not leaking out. If gas would leak out, it would have done that long ago.
Through the underground network of pipes, the CO2 moves at fairly low pressure, but that needs to change to allow it to make it out to sea and then down 3 kilometres. Right out on the sea edge of the port, a compressor station is being built.
This is where we have the 6 different compressors. We also have the facilities to analyse what we bring into our lines.
What you're going to have is lots of pipes all going in different directions and doing different things. It's very complex.
Very complex indeed. We take low pressure from our clients. We ramp it up into a higher pressure to get enough pressure through to bring it into the gas wells offshore.
From the compressor station, the pipeline then goes away out to sea, some 20 kilometres, to a platform that's ready to take the gas down into the North Sea. For this part of the project, the team are reverting a platform that used to extract gas from the wells. The Port of Rotterdam owes its size to the oil and gas sector, an industry that has had a significant impact on our planet. While this project has the backing of government and the European Union, there are those who worry carbon capture and storage simply allows the oil and gas industry to keep drilling. There are, of course, those who say it's only a small amount of CO2, it's only a fraction of the problem that you're actually going to solve with this, or indeed that it might encourage some of these producers to keep using fossil fuels and kind of having harmful practices.
I think what you see is that Porthos is the first of its kind, but not the last project. There are other projects also in the Netherlands that probably multiply by 10 the amount of volume of CO2 that we can do. So I think it's a start, and yes, it's not sufficient. We can do more, and we should do more. And at the same time, it's a temporary solution. We have to be very clear about that. The storage amount is limited. We have to convert to other technologies, but we're not there yet.
It will take around 15 years to fill up the gas field being used for this project. It's a costly test case, but if it proves a success, there are already plans for more pipelines like this to be built.
Solar. Clean, renewable energy to reduce our dependence on oil and natural gas. But when the sun goes down, it can't produce power. And globally, we're burning through more energy year on year. So one startup is looking upwards for a solution, as in way up.
We're developing and commercialising space-based solar power, where we utilise the abundant solar energy in space to provide clean, constant energy for Earth and beyond.
Sam aims to build a massive 4-kilometre-long solar panel satellite in high Earth orbit, with the help of space robots working from a docking hub. Sunlight would be concentrated onto a central spiral staircase array of solar panels by 2 disc-shaped reflectors at either end. Then the light would be converted into microwaves and beamed to a receiver station at sea, caught by a net-like structure known as a rectenna.
The sun always shines in space, and that means that we can deliver 24/7 baseload dispatchable, that's tunable power. And that's essential for the future of the grid. It enables the grid to work.
The concept of beaming power from space down to Earth isn't new. NASA has been trying to crack it since the 60s.
Capable of delivering electricity on a vast scale. Ever hear of 10 gigawatts? Well, that's 10 billion watts, 10,000 megawatts of electric power.
What's changed recently is the economics. So the economics of space launch has fallen. It's fallen 2 orders of magnitude since the days of the space shuttle, and actually some analysts predict it's going to fall 2 orders of magnitude more from today.
Have you factored in the carbon cost of sending your solutions up in rockets burning fuel?
We've done a number of life cycle analysis, notably with the University of Strathclyde, and the results are that space-based solar power ends up with a carbon footprint about half that of terrestrial solar. So that includes all of the rocket launches, the utilisation and the increased incident energy offsets all of the additional carbon on the journey.
With a modular design for redundancy and the ability to instantaneously switch direction of waves to base stations that need power, Sam says it could optimise systems with big savings. But with so much junk increasingly up there, is there enough space in space?
Space is an increasingly crowded environment. We consciously use orbits that aren't crowded, but there's tons of room up there.
Startups like Space Solar is one of many racing towards the space economy, a commercial sector projected to reach $1.8 trillion in the next decade. We're already turning to the stars for holidays with tour operators like Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin.
Is this wild?
But also for farming. Interstellar Lab is developing biospheric pods and microgravity greenhouses to grow life in space. And one day soon, the atmospheric conditions of space could help better our health. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 6 of us are dying from cancer. So, London-based startup BioOrbit is aiming to improve disease treatment by building a pharmaceutical factory in space.
Currently, for cancer treatment, we have to go to hospital and we get the drugs injected into our veins, which takes a really long time and means we have to spend a whole day in hospital. But if you take the same drug and form it into something that you can inject yourself, now you don't need to go to hospital anymore and you can stay at home. And we're trying to make that happen, because a thing that can make that happen is through making crystals of the drug.
Ooh, crystals. In basic terms, here on Earth, gravity causes defects in crystal growth because it impacts molecular motion. Whereas up in space, in a microgravity environment, uniform crystals can more slowly form.
There's no way of doing this on Earth. You can have things like vomit comets, which I really want to go on, or drop towers, but that only gives you a few seconds of microgravity, and that's not long enough for the crystals to be formed.
They can take weeks to months to grow, depending on the drug. Now this all might sound a bit sci-fi, but this so-called supercrystallization process is based upon decades of research.
So this box is our payload. This is what is going to be going to space for our first demo of our technology.
Oh, I've dropped it.
If I don't break it, this lab in a box is destined for the International Space Station next month.
The long-term vision is that BioOrbit has its own space station filled with these manufacturing lines, just constantly churning out these crystals and then bringing them back down to Earth.
But there are a number of challenges in the way.
Is there quite a bit of red tape here?
We might be in a situation where auditors have to come to space as an astronaut themselves to audit our factory, which is definitely a job that I think people would sign up for.
To quote Captain Kirk, space, the final frontier, could be closer than you might think.
Love it or hate it, technology and sport are becoming ever more closely intertwined. And right in the heart of Germany, one of Europe's elite football clubs is showing the way.
This is Signal Iduna Park, the largest stadium in Germany and home to Borussia Dortmund. But as well as being an icon of German football, it's also home to some really innovative tech and AI. And I'm here to go and have a look.
With a capacity of over 80,000, Signal Iduna Park is best known for the Yellow Wall, a terraced stand that holds 25,000 standing fans, making it the largest freestanding grandstand in Europe. Here, data is collected by cameras and sensors placed around the stadium, monitoring the action on the pitch. Amazon Web Services, which powers this data collection, says that it collects 3.6 million data points from one Bundesliga game alone. In F1, where AWS also operates, it says it collects 1.1 million data points every second.
There's so much more data collection in sport now than there ever was when I was a kid growing up as a sports fan. And so being able to process voluminous amounts of data that's being captured and then turn that data into insights, we're seeing just a wide array of use cases for that.
Who is the market for all of this data? Is it broadcasters? Is it fans? Is it sporting organisations? Is it clubs? Who wants this kind of data?
Yes, all of the above. So yes, I mean, when you look at the different use cases, I think of it in sort of three tranches. At the governing body or the league level, the data is being used to inform things like officiating, rule development. At the club level, it's driving, game strategy, scouting, recruiting, training. And at the fan level, it's driving engagement, right? It's edifying your audience, being able to tell a new story, to be able to point out why a particular feat of athleticism is so exceptional.
But it's not just football, the round ball kind, where this kind of data is being used.
The NFL created the digital athlete.
The NFL, the richest sport league in the world, is also embracing technology in a big way.
To help prevent head injuries, the Helmet Impact Detection AI model.
But crucially, they say that this data is more than just a gimmick for showcasing statistics. Via their digital athlete platform, it's improving the safety of players in what can be a high-impact sport.
The Digital Athlete is an application we built in teamwork with AWS, and we're collecting multiple data points. So from practices, from live games, videos, sensor data, statistics that are going into this platform to create a simulator for player health and safety situations. So this could be for the player's perspective, for the coach's perspective, for the health technician's perspective. And it's really to simulate things and understand how different changes to the game, whether it's equipment or rules, they impact the players themselves. And our goal here ultimately is to have the safest game possible and to extend longevity of the game, the players, everyone there. And we do that through this simulator, data-based.
There are applications for fans too. The German football authorities say their Bundesliga app now serves millions of fans a year, providing real-time data and video content to users. This year in the UK, the Premier League is promising more data and statistics for fans than ever before. The DFL say all this is not about replacing the passion or the soul of football. It's about enhancing it by providing richer insights, more engaging stories, and personalised content. Whether you're a football purist or a tech fan, it seems the prevalence of data in the beautiful game is only going to increase.
As we wade through endless waves of misinformation, it's vital that we don't just ask the questions, we question the answers. I'm Matthew Emerywala on Verified Live for BBC News.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Aid distribution ramps up in Gaza through airdrops and truck deliveries, but the UK Foreign Secretary says Israel's tactical pause in fighting in limited areas isn't enough. International pressure's been mounting on Israel to allow aid in as the number of Gazans dying from malnutrition goes up.
I'm Regina Vaidyanathan in Scotland. President Trump's played a round of golf this morning at his resort here at Turnberry. Later, he'll be welcoming the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, as the EU and the US try and thrash out a trade agreement.
Firefighters in Turkey and Greece are using all available resources to battle a series of wildfires across the eastern Mediterranean. And the Lionesses look to make amends in tonight's Euro 2025 final against Spain. Hello, I'm Karen Giannoni. The UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy says the temporary pause in fighting in parts of Gaza doesn't go far enough to alleviate the aid crisis. David Lammy was speaking as aid is starting to enter the territory. Jordan says it's parachuted 25 tons of aid into Gaza. Israel says it's airdropped aid too, and lorries carrying supplies have begun entering from Egypt after Israel opened some border crossings. Aid organisations consider sending aid through trucks to be a more efficient and a safer mechanism. Well, the developments come after the Israeli military announced a tactical pause in 3 parts of the territory to allow food and medicine to be distributed. Those areas are Al-Mawazi, Deir al-Balah and Gaza City. Aid agencies have been warning that mass starvation is taking hold in Gaza, with the health ministry there saying 6 more people have died from malnutrition, bringing the total to 133, including 87 children. Medical officials say at least 9 Palestinians were killed and 54 others wounded in an Israeli shooting apparently targeting civilians gathered at an aid convoy route in central Gaza. And just in the last half hour, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said, "We will continue to fight. We will continue to act until we achieve all of our war goals, until complete victory." The BBC and other international news organisations are prevented from reporting inside Gaza by the Israeli government. Amir Nada sends this report from Jerusalem.
Footage released by the Israeli military showing its planes dropping 7 packages of aid into Gaza, where 2 million people are facing a hunger crisis. Jordanian and Emirati planes are expected to follow. Humanitarian agencies have called airdrops a distraction, that what's needed to loosen the deadly grip of starvation are not planes, but for Gaza to be flooded with aid by land.
When aid is airdropped, it causes injuries and damage. They cause massacres on the street. We are coming here for death. All these people, the people who die every day. If 1, 2 or 10 boxes are dropped, all these people cannot take them. Only 1 or 2% of people get the aid.
Today, Israel also announced it would implement humanitarian corridors for aid distribution by land, addressing a key demand from aid agencies that the military allows the safe passage of trucks, following repeated deadly incidents in which they accuse the Israeli military of shooting Palestinians crowding the convoys. But already today, as footage showed trucks at the border firing up their engines and moving through the Rafah crossing into Gaza, at one hospital, medical officials said at least 9 people were killed when Israeli troops shot at Palestinians waiting for a convoy. The Israeli military has been reached for comment. It has previously said it uses only warning shots.
The way of aid is very harmful and dangerous, but we go out for the sake of children, because a child cries, telling you, "Uncle, I want a loaf of bread." It breaks your heart. It feels like a million knives into your heart.
What will now determine the fate of thousands of Gazans standing on the edge of starvation are how many trucks Israel allows in, how safely and for how long.
Well, our correspondent Hugo Bashega is in Jerusalem, and I asked him how much aid has managed to get in so far.
So we had this report from the Jordanian officials saying that 25 tons of aid have been airdropped in the latest round of these kinds of operations over Gaza. This was a fresh round of airdrops by Jordan and also by the United Arab Emirates. And we've seen that trucks are now entering Gaza. So obviously there has been this significant announcement by the Israeli military after days of dire warnings by aid organizations, by the United Nations, of mass starvation in Gaza because they say of restrictions that had been imposed by the Israeli military on the entry and delivery of aid into Gaza. So we still don't have a clear picture of how much aid has now entered Gaza. But again, what aid agencies are saying is that they are ready to deliver aid to the population of Gaza. As we've seen, there have been, those images of emaciated children, reports of Palestinians starving to death, accounts of people fainting from hunger. All these reports, causing, shock and outrage around the world. So putting a lot of pressure on the Israeli authorities. And finally, yesterday, this announcement by the Israeli military, a number of measures to try to ease the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But again, what aid agencies have been saying is that particularly, the airdrops, this is a desperate measure really to try to get aid to those who need in a very quick way. But they say that this is not going to solve the crisis, that, what is important here is for a significant amount of aid to be allowed to enter Gaza, by land, by hundreds of trucks. We're now, trucks that are waiting to be allowed into Gaza for this aid to be sent to those people who need in Gaza.
Hugo, what do we know about these pauses in fighting that Israel has announced, and how different is that to the ceasefire that so many have been calling for?
Exactly, and the ceasefire, a deal between Israel and Hamas is the main hope here for, for more aid to be, delivered to the population of Gaza. So this is a decision that has been announced by the Israeli military, pauses in fighting in parts of Gaza. We've seen also that some corridors are going to be created for UN convoys to be able to deliver food and medicine. And I think the significance here is that this is, I think, a response by the Israeli authorities to growing international pressure, given, everything that has emerged from Gaza in the last few days and warnings of mass starvation in Gaza. So a significant development that, there will be, pauses in military operations by the Israeli military. The statement by the Israeli army yesterday said that they will continue with their operations against Hamas in Gaza, but that there will be pauses, tactical pauses as they call it, to allow aid organizations, the United Nations, to access those areas in Gaza, especially those densely populated areas in central Gaza, also on the coast of the territory, for aid to be given to those people in Gaza.
Hugo Bashega. Well, here, the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer is due to convene the Cabinet this week, even though Parliament is in recess, to discuss the situation in Gaza. Our political correspondent Helen Catt has more.
It's unusual for the Prime Minister to be holding a Cabinet meeting outside of Parliament. Parliament is not sitting at the moment. It's on its summer recess, its summer break. So I think it shows you how important, or how concerned, the level of concern there is within government about the worsening situation in Gaza. We know that the UK has committed to working with Jordan on airdrops of aid, and it's committed to bringing children to the UK from Palestine who need critical medical assistance. We think around 30 is the plan for that. So, there's certainly a huge amount of concern from the UK government, and these are the actions that it is taking. Ideally, it wants Israel to lift all restrictions on aid. That, they say, is the way forward. But this is what the UK is doing to try and further that.
Helen Catt. President Trump's continuing his visit to Scotland and is out on the golf course in Turnberry today. Later, President Trump's focus will be on trade talks with the European Union because the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, is due to meet him at Turnberry. He told reporters he believes there is a 50-50 chance of reaching A deal. Let's go over to Rajini Vaidyanathan, who is there at Turnberry. Rajini.
Yeah. Karen, we understand that President Trump has finished his round of golf on the course that he owns in the distance behind me here at Turnberry on the west coast of Scotland. And now he is waiting to welcome, as you say there, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. They are, of course, convening to see if they can thrash out some sort of agreement on an EU-US trade deal. There's a clock ticking in many ways, Karen, because it's August the 1st that President Trump told countries that they would face those higher tariffs that he announced earlier in the year unless they came to a deal with the United States. So this is all about trying to get those tariff numbers down. And we know that there is a delegation that's already talking. We've got officials from the US who have arrived here at Turnberry, including the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and Trade Representative Jameson Greer from the US side, and other EU officials. So lower level officials have already been doing the talking even before Ursula von der Leyen and Donald Trump get together. Well, let's discuss this in a bit more detail. I'm joined by our Scotland correspondent Ben Phillip. So Ben, first of all, what's at stake when it comes to the talks between the President and Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission?
We know Donald Trump loves a deal, and when he gets one, he loves to make a big deal about it. When he arrived here on Friday, he said that there was a 50-50 chance of a trade agreement between the US and the EU, adding that if one was reached, it would be the biggest deal of them all. And he's right. The European Union is a huge trading bloc, and the US is its biggest trading partner. He said there would be some sticking points, though. He wouldn't elaborate on what those sticking points would be. He's keeping his cards rather close to his chest before this meeting this afternoon with Ursula von der Leyen. Donald Trump has threatened to put 30% tariffs on all EU goods if a deal isn't done before the 1st of August. He has set that deadline, something that would, likely spark a trade war. The EU has promised to retaliate if that happened. What we might see, though, as some EU diplomats have suggested, is perhaps somewhere in the middle ground, maybe 15% tariffs, similar to a deal that's been made with Japan, possibly more on products like steel and aluminium.
Yeah, we know that the steel and aluminium is going to be higher. President Trump said that would be in line with other countries who he's already said would face around 50%, I think. Let's talk about some of the challenges in terms of the EU and the US. Let's have a listen to what President Trump said about immigration in Europe when he arrived at Glasgow's Prestwick Airport on Friday.
And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe, many countries in Europe. Some people, some leaders have not let it happen. And they're not getting the proper credit they should. I could name them to you right now, but I'm not going to embarrass the other ones. But stop. This immigration is killing Europe.
Well, Ben, President Trump there saying that Europe needed to get a grip when it comes to immigration. It's one area where they have differing views, also when it comes to climate change as well.
Yeah, certainly. When Donald Trump got off Air Force One on Friday night, he did seem to have some very critical advice for European countries, as he was talking about there. Windmills, he's actually referring to wind farms, and he is not a big fan of wind farms at all. And this primarily